That's a boy! That's a boy! That's a man, man! Who said?
Little blurry. Yeah, that's the side of a girl getting her teeth knocked out by a biological boy who was allowed to play on the girls' team because inclusivity. And it landed this girl in the hospital. So now Dighton Rehoboth has a policy that says they won't punish any girl that refuses to play against a team with a biological boy on it. And they just forfeited their upcoming game, literally to keep their players safe. So this is what it's come to. Girls having to forfeit to boys so they don't get their teeth knocked down their throat. So much for women's rights.
Yo, it's your boy Bigger Dave. And if you tuning in, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. There were many things President Trump campaigned on. If it was either the open border or the economy, no matter what, things weren't in good shape. And this one policy captured a lot of people's attention because it was plainly common sense. You didn't need to be a smart or dumb person to know about this policy. This policy was keeping boys out of girls' sports. When the left was advocating for women's rights, such as ability to have abortion, that wasn't the only thing that was in jeopardy. It was also women's identity. Even though there are 2.8 million people at the age of 13 and older identify as transgender, that's really like 1%. A lot of people on the left feel like this problem is a small problem, but it's perhaps getting big in the women community. For instance, you ever heard the story of Riley Gaines? She was an All-American swimmer. She raced against a transgender woman named Leah Thomas. She was born a biological male. Riley Gaines was an All-American swimmer. She was very respected in her category, women swimming. They both raced, and they both tied. The NCAA eventually gave Leah Thomas the trophy because they felt like it would make NCAA look good. Because this was around the time where people were promoting transgender. Riley Gaines spoke against that because she felt like that was unfair. So the NCAA tried to silence her. Eventually, there was a hearing. After that, Riley Gaines became an activist for other girls that was in her situation.
Let's not forget that children are at the core of this issue. There's a place for everyone to play sports in this country. But unsafe, unfair, and discriminatory practices towards women must stop. Inclusion cannot be prioritized over safety and fairness. And Ranking Member Lee, if my testimony makes me transphobic, then I believe your opening monologue makes you a misogynist.
Wow. Liberals try to advocate for women's rights. Women's rights is already getting taken away from their First Amendment of speaking against it. And this brings up my topic about the Miss North Florida. Miss North Florida loses crown over transgender policy objection. In September 2024, 19-year-old Kayla Bush won Miss North Florida, a stepping stone to Miss America. 4 weeks later, the organization updated its rules to define female as including biological males who completed a vaginoplasty. Bush refused to sign. Eventually, she lost her title after 2 months despite appeals and told TMZ, "I lost my crown because I was unwilling to rewrite the truth." A Miss America spokesman emphasized uniform rules and non-discrimination, while Bush now competes as Miss She Leads America.
You were looking to compete for Miss America, but then they took your Florida crown off you because you made statements about sort of transgender?
Yes, that is exactly right. I was asked to sign a contract that was different than the first one that I had agreed to because they had changed it 4 weeks after I rightly won. And so I didn't lose my crown because I broke a rule. I lost the crown because I was unwilling to rewrite the truth.
And were you super upset, obviously, when you lost your crown and then Miss She Leads America reached out to you and said, "Hey, we will honor you"?
Yes, it was heartbreaking, it was confusing, it was disappointing because Miss America has been honoring women for over 100 years and now they can't even define what a woman is. And heartbroken, there was a lot of soul searching, but God uses all things for good and here I am.
What were the circumstances that you spoke out about this?
So by circumstances, do you mean like?
So at what point did you say that men cannot be women?
Well, immediately as soon as we were given the contract, first thing, my mom and I, we started raising concern about it and got on a conference call immediately with one of the directors for the Miss America organization, and weeks and weeks and weeks of pleading with them, sending videos, sending letters, emails, demand letters through Liberty Counsel because they picked up my case, and they just no, and they doubled down and basically just got to the point.
But what was the letter?
What did you say originally? What precipitated you speaking out?
Declining to sign the contract. Yeah, declining to sign the contract.
Okay.
Because I couldn't agree that a little boy could mutilate his body and become a woman.
Why was that in the contract?
I don't know. That's something we got to ask the Miss America organization.
Have you had any celebrity support?
We've had a little bit. Yes, we have.
From who?
Riley Gaines. We've had Lee Allen Baker, the famous Miss Liz Doyle, and a few others. But the support has been crazy, encouraging, and it's just been amazing.
And last thing, how do you feel about the Miss America pageant and just organization in general now?
That's a tough question. I used to look up to Miss America because they empowered women, but now it's really disappointing to see that they've abandoned such a common sense truth, and that is that a man is a man and that a woman is a woman. And disappointed in the Miss America organization. But
I can't believe Miss America organization has done this sort of thing. I can't believe I'm at an age where I'm witnessing Miss America allowing biological males to compete. Throughout the years of Miss America has been up, I never would have thought that a male would be able to compete with other women. But that's the whole problem about being woke. You're open to all these other ideas that's trampling what is normal is. And I hate the fact that some of these women on the left want to claim that President Trump is trying to take their rights just to have an abortion. But if you look at this, these woke ideology people, they're trying to replace most women. A woman I know can have kids. There's always been a pregnant woman. There's never been a pregnant people. And I commend Miss North Florida because she's standing on her beliefs as a woman. As a Christian woman, matter of fact. And that's going to be discrepancy with the left and right. conservatives move closer to what the Bible says and the left move away from the Bible. It's simple as that. But any woman out here looking at this sort of news, it should make your skin crawl. It should make the hairs come up. Because this is crazy. This woman right here, North Florida, she shouldn't have to compete with other men in a beauty pageant. But they try to force her to sign a policy that they just updated in 2025. It says it right here. The Miss America organization current policy on transgender contestants as a reflected in 2025 competition season rules, which appear to carry forward as transgender women assigned male at birth to compete only if they completed a sex reassignment surgery or gender affirming surgery. And they got to have medical certification document. That's crazy. But y'all women is just women on the left just worrying about if Trump take away the ability to have abortion, which he's not doing. He said leave it up to the states for y'all to have abortions. But I commend to North Florida because, first of all, Florida by itself ain't gonna have that. Florida wasn't gonna have that anyway. But it just shows you a company like Miss America is losing their credibility. Just on a simple decision not to have boys and girls sports. I don't understand why that's so hard. And it's sad that, it's sad because it's like, why can't they have their own league? They can have their own Miss Transgender America, whatever you call it. But it's just sad that sort of thing becomes hate for these type of people. It ain't no hate towards no transgender. It's really simply don't get out the norm. The Bible says Adam and Eve, boy and girl. It's just people get fed up of this sort of thing that's getting forced on you. You shouldn't have to force none of this stuff on a man, child, anybody. But one thing about her backlash, she had to lose her crown. And that's one thing God do. God will shut a door just for you to open another one. So Miss North Florida now is crowned of She Leads America. She is now Miss Leads America. She was crowned at a Washington Gala. And she was also honored the 2025 Christian Woman of Distinction Award because she's simply just standing on her beliefs. That's what you gotta do nowadays. You can't just go along with the crowd, especially if it bothers you. And these sort of things women have to do nowadays. Sometimes they have to just step down. I saw that on another one. I saw that on a reel, where a woman just decided not to compete against a transgender in fencing. J.K. Rowling, that's the sort of thing she kind of hint like that's the sort of thing that some of these heroes got to do. You just got to sometimes close that one door. And J.K. Rowling has also been, backlash for her. She's the writer of Harry Potter. And she spoke on how this transgender thing is, getting out of control and she's not with it. But I just look at it like this, man. A lot of these companies going to lose a lot more money just off of trying to stay woke, trying to be inclusive. And that's what the next option is going to be. It's just going to be rebuild America without these companies. Rebuild America with better integrity. Because no woman should have to compete with males in no competition. Even if they put on a wig and a dress, they shouldn't have to compete with a male. But that was the one thing that I spoke of earlier in this video, where you got the left that's moving away from what the Bible says and the right that's standing on what the Bible says. Those are two types of people we got right now. And you starting to see it in companies like Miss America. You starting to see it in women's sports. Because that should never be a problem that a little girl would have to, deal with. It's shocking because I look at it like, why can't these transgenders just have their own sport? Why can't they just have their own league? And companies don't want to do that. Companies don't want to hurt these people's feelings because some of these transgenders they're using emotional. And that's what Charlie Kirk spoke on about civil rights. He wasn't trying to talk down on black people, but he was just showing you that nowadays they use civil rights to allow transgenders to play in sports because of discrimination. They're using our civil rights. As a black man, they're using our civil rights to allow transgenders to play in sports. And that sort of thing is going to have to stop. Once again, I give commends to North Florida and her ability to, go through this backlash. Cause this is stormy weather. But just keep doing what you're doing. And also, we're going to have to support this Miss Leads America. This ideology is going to have to end some kind of way. And you already know, this First Game Podcast.